It's time for another My Little Pony episode review, and tonight I am going to be reviewing Secret of My Excess. This was another request from BabClayman1, and I kind of figured he would request me to do this. Well, I should have known. He would request me to review this episode, since it involves a little quirk of his, which I'm not a big fan of. Does this sound familiar? Oh well, let's begin. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Season 2, Episode 10, Secret of My Excess. So this episode starts off with Spike with this red gemstone called a Fire Rupee, which he's been saving to eat on his birthday. At that moment, Rarity comes into Twilight's library looking for a gemstone to use for a fashion she's working on. She sees Spike's Fire Rupee and thinks it'll be perfect. Of course, having a secret crush on Rarity, Spike reluctantly gives it to Rarity, and Rarity kisses Spike on the cheek. Now this proves how ponies kiss, at least on this show. It's not like dogs and cats who kiss with their tongues. No. Ponies apparently have lips. So anyway, Spike's birthday comes, and Twilight is determined to wash his cheek, the one Rarity kissed, but Spike refuses, and does all he can to avoid Twilight, but fails. This is about the time all the other ponies come in and throw Spike's birthday party. They all brought presents for Spike, but Spike somehow didn't know that people get presents on their birthdays. I guess maybe Spike is 1 year old, but he does seem a bit mature for that, so maybe he's 10 in dragon years? I don't know. Although he did say that Twilight gives him a book for his birthday every year, so maybe this is the first time Spike ever had a birthday party where friends are invited. Makes me wonder how Twilight has been treating Spike his entire life up to this point. Anyway, there is one little scene where Spike hugs Applejack in this scene and thanks him for the blanket she made for her. Now this scene caused a lot of debate amongst a lot of fans over Spike and AJ being a couple. True, they did make a small connection, but it's just one little scene. That doesn't mean they're soulmates. That's a lot like how in the Sonic franchise, all the people who support the Shadow and Amy pairing say they make a perfect couple because they had a little conversation in one small scene in Sonic Adventure 2. It's just thinking too hard, but I digress. After the party, Spike goes out into Ponyville and decides to let his greed get the best of him by telling other ponies that it's his birthday so that he'd get a bunch more gifts. Eventually, Twilight catches Spike and tells him to cease and desist. After all, birthdays mean having fun with friends, not getting lots of stuff. Yeah, you all know where that comes from, but that episode's for another day. So the next morning, Twilight wakes up only to discover that Spike is buried in all this junk, and then she notices that Spike has somehow grown bigger. I guess Twilight won't be giving him rides anymore. As the episode continues, Spike continues to grow larger, his vocabulary starts decreasing, and he gets more and more grabby. Twilight takes Spike to every doctor she knows in Ponyville, but apparently no pony seems to know anything about dragons. So then she goes to Zecora, the one who has the answers to everything, and she tells Twilight that Spike's growth and hunger was caused by his acts of greed. The greedier he gets, the bigger a monster he becomes. After all that, Spike becomes Spikezilla and starts rampaging through Ponyville. One by one, each of the main 6 teams up with each other to try to track Spike down before he does any more damage to Ponyville. But Pinkie Pie doesn't help any. She just makes it worse by feeding him cupcakes. Though she did have some pretty funny lines in that little scene, I must admit. Eventually, Spike finds Rarity, grabs her, and takes her up the mountain that we remembered from Dragonshy. Why am I not surprised they decided to make a King Kong reference? While this is going on, the Wonderbolts show up for no real reason at all. This comes up to the climax where Spike is about to take Rarity's necklace, but Rarity tells him off by saying, "You are not getting this necklace. This gem was given to me by Spike." This somehow refreshes Spike's memory and turns him back to normal. Seeing Spike and Rarity fall, the other 5 ponies quickly set up a way to catch them. As they're falling, Spike is just about to confess his love to Rarity, but Rarity stops him from talking, and makes this face as if she were saying, "I know, Spike, I know." That's got to be one of my favorite moments of the series, but don't expect me to make a top 10 favorite MLP moments video. The only couple that I truly support on this series is Spike and Rarity. So, do they survive? Well, of course they do! Hasbro wouldn't kill off their main characters, would they? Okay, maybe they did before, but I'm sure they've learned their lesson after the Transformers movie. Anyway, Spike is feeling bad for everything he's done, and I know that he's learned his lesson, but I'm still not 100% sure if the ponies forgave him. Did they forgive him? If you have an answer to that, please tell me in the comments, because I'd really like to know. Also, how are they going to take care of all the damage that was done to Ponyville? Who's going to pay for it? And who's going to fix it? Well, I'm getting ahead of myself now. So, final verdict, I didn't care too much for this episode. I never liked episodes to cartoons where one of the main characters gets singled out in some dramatic way. The only reason Bab Clayman 1 wanted me to review this episode is probably because he has a giant fetish, which I don't get. Alright, now I've got one more request from Bab Clayman 1 here at the moment. Let's see, which episode will I be reviewing next week? Not Family Appreciation Day. Alright. Well, until next time, Powerpup 97 away.